Sean Dammann. How are you, sir?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So Orlando, man, it was kind of good for the soul, no?
It was great. Yeah.
What's your biggest takeaway from family reunion?
Man, uh, you know what? The basics of our industry stay the same. You've either got one or two problems, not enough leads or not strong enough conversion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways to fix both of those.
Yeah.
Universal truths, but there are some, I think, paradigm shifts that we're seeing and that we should, be expecting to deal with in the near future, some of which I think we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And that, Gary Keller is generally the smartest guy in the room when I'm there.
Yeah. Agents for the longest time always wondered why when we do coaching or consulting, we're always kind of taking their goal and dropping it down to an appointment number. But the whole point of dropping it down to an appointment number helps prove that point you just talked about. It's like you either got a lead generation problem, meaning you don't have enough appointments,
Right.
or if you're getting the appointments and the money's not showing up, you got a conversion problem.
100%.
And those are the only two problems real estate agents have, right? Yeah. So anyway, well, here's the deal. Let's jump in. Let me put the numbers up. Pierce, you got to stop sharing so I can share.
Throw me some permission to share too, because I got one or two things I might want to.
Yeah. So here's Fulton County. Right now there's 501 active listings. Looks like 148 active contract, 388 pending, and 333 closed. Honestly, we've been sitting at this 500 active listing number in Fulton County for almost the whole year, right?
Yeah.
So it's not getting better, it's not getting worse, but the good news is it's constant, and we're selling houses, right? And our closings are pretty constant. Our pendings jump around. I'm sorry, our closings jump around a little bit, but our pendings stay pretty constant, which is always interesting to me. Like, I guess as a real estate agent industry, I guess we can't run any faster. We just sell the same number of houses every week.
Well, and if you laid this year over year, like I think one of the misnomers is that there's no houses to sell. We sold more houses last year than we sold the year before, and we sold more houses the year before than we did the year before. It's active inventory that's tight because there's such a huge buyer demand. There are actually more houses that we're selling. There's
right.
We just haven't caught up with the appetite, and we're not going to for another, 18 months or so, probably at the earliest.
Yeah, we'll see. I think forces are moving fast all over the place, right? If we jump to DeKalb County, we actually are starting to see a little tightening of the inventory in DeKalb County. Let's see if I can make this a little wider. 257 active listings in DeKalb County, down from 279 a week ago, down from 288 a week before that. Pendings 223, 237, 212. Not bad, but if it keeps going in that direction, I'll create a little concern. But closings, and I mean, it bounces around.
I'm trying to figure out this jump in the mid-October of closings. I can't put my finger on a driver that would have had everything closing right then. I mean, that's a fairly middle of the month abnormal thing, but it's in Fulton County too.
Yeah. So maybe everybody wanted to buy their love interest, something for Valentine's Day, Sean. I don't know. But Cobb County, same deal, that little spike. It might have been a last chance, low interest rate. We don't know.
It could be.
At the end of the day, what's kind of the message here? There's still houses to sell. Inventory's not taking off like we were hoping it would take off, but it's doing a slow climb. Yet at the end of the day, I mean, no news is good news at the moment, I guess is probably a good answer.
Yeah.
Would you add anything?
Yeah, can I throw this is going to be a little local to the in-town market, but with your permission, I'd like to share some information, and I can't start. I need some permission to share.
I think Brett has to stop sharing, then you should be good to go.
Yeah, but I don't see a stop. There it is. Hang on.
All right, give me 1 second.
There you go.
So, and I see my compatriot in arms and statistics, Rick Baldwin, here on the phone with me. So Rick and I are the numbers junkies in my office, and we look at these things a lot. So what we're looking at here is, because it's a market of the moment and our agents need to be able to speak this language and to be able to advise. Right now, we're still getting multiple offers on over 70% of the properties, 2/3 of the property, right? So the question that comes to mind, and by the way, those numbers are up in January and February, year to date from the fourth quarter. So in the fourth quarter, at least for, if you look at just our numbers for our office, 64% of our transactions on the list side were above list price, and 62% of our buyer side were above list price. For the first 2 months of the year, it was 70% and 71%. That's a sizable jump to kick out to start the year. And the question that comes to mind when you're in multiple listing is, okay, so where do we make our offer? Do we use an escalation clause? Where do we put our highest and best out there? So what Rick and I do a lot of dialogue around and looking at is what our house is actually selling for that are selling above list price. And we hit some high numbers so far at the beginning of this year on our listing side. Of those properties that sold above list price, they sold at 106% of list price. On the buyer side, for those that closed above list price, they closed at 104%. So what that tells me is if I'm making an offer on a $400,000 house, that offer needs to come in right about 416, right? 4% above is about where it's going to land. And it can be a measure to help you figure out in writing offers where you want to come in on those. Rick, what you unmute real quick. Rick, you're muted.
How's that? Okay, so the reason that for me, that number of the average price over asking price that properties are selling for is because my client says to me, well, what do you think we should do? And I say, well, look, the average over asking price in January and February in the city of Decatur, COD, is 6% over. If you're not thinking of 6% over, you're not in the game, right? You have to start thinking that way or we can't play. You can't swim in this pool if you're not thinking that you're going to be at least 6% over. So it's either 1% or it could be 15%, but the average over is 6 in City of Decatur. In 3033, it was 8% over.
Yeah.
In Tucker, 7% over. In 30317, 8% over. Now, this is significant because we jumped right into this in January and February from where it was in fourth quarter. It was basically 103 or 104% in the fourth quarter. And then immediately, January and February, we jumped right up. We jumped right up to 6, 7, 8% over asking price. We went right to the height of the season where it had been in like last summer, right? There was no way, it just jumped right in there. And also that we saw that in the fourth quarter for most of those markets, about half of the properties sold for at or over asking. In January and February, it was 70%. Jumped right into a hyper competitive environment. No delay.
So the power to me in these numbers, Rick, is when my buyer says, where do I make an offer? Instead of just randomly coming up with an idea or making it feel like, well, I think we should come in here, not a powerful answer to go, well, hey, look, what we know is that in the market right now, the average winning price is 107% list price. So if we want to beat that, we probably need to come in at 108. Okay?
Yeah. Sean, I'd actually add that I'd bring it back even further to the buyer consultation and just say, hey, I want you to be prepared. You're going to have a percentage of money your lender's going to tell you're going to have to put into this property, but you need to also be prepared for 7% or 8% or 6%, because that's what it's going to take to win in this market. Are you prepared for that? Because I think it's got to go back to that consultation.
You're right, because let's get it down to a specific conversation. If somebody says to me, well, I really don't want to, I can look up to 450, right? I say to them, okay, so What we need to do though is we need to look up to 425 because you're going to get to 450 with a multiple offer situation. So you can't be looking at 450. You're not going to afford it.
You need to back it out.
Yep. I like
Yeah.
it.
So just some cool numbers that I thought we'd share where we are right now. And these would be, obviously you can see the zip codes we focused on, mostly on some of the in-town neighborhoods nearby.
Perfect. Well, I want to jump to a topic, and the topic's Ukraine. And I just want to say this first. I think that there's a lot of news media that people are being exposed to right now that could trigger some anxiety for a lot of people that aren't used to seeing that kind of imagery or just some natural fear in the world. I think there's a lot of people in our world that are former veterans or military people that certainly could be triggered by the fact that there's a war going on. And I think that there's an opportunity to just be human right now and go connect with some people, whether it's people in your database, if you're an agent, and say, hey, I'm just checking in on you. I know you used to serve in the military. I'm very thankful for that. But understand that there's just the world's in a weird place right now, and I just want to make sure you're okay. Or just being sensitive to the fact that there is conflict going on in the world, I think is first and foremost and very human. The second part of that conversation, Sean, is crystal ball. What's it mean for real estate? And I think a lot of people want to talk about it. I've got my opinions, and I'll be the first to say it is just that, an opinion, and it's my educated opinion. However, I believe because the crisis in Ukraine, that the federal government was planning on being aggressive with the Federal Reserve, and I think they're going to tailor back that aggression, which I think will hold interest rates from climbing as fast as they would have climbed this year, which I think is going to be a good thing for buyers. I think it should hold the market pretty steady and strong. And at the end of the day, you've got a bunch of factors flying here. You got inflation that's going to go really, really high as a result of this, especially grain and oil is kind of the two to keep your eye on, as Gary Keller mentioned last week at Family Reunion. However, I personally believe that the demand is so strong out there for housing right now that they're not going to care if it's a 4.5% interest rate. They're not going to be as sensitive if the stock market goes haywire. People are wanting to go buy houses at a good price. And I think as long as we're in the middle of those transactions, the opportunity will be good. What's your take?
I think everything you're saying there is accurate. I think where we could see some impact is we're at an all-time high in multiple property ownership in the United States right now. So you see people buying in vacation homes and lake houses and beach houses, and you may see that impacted because that money is often spent from investments. And so if the global economy, if like the stocks go down, what it's going to do for interest rates, people look for more conservative investments. That's going to be in the bond market. And if the bond market's strong, the interest rates are going to be, that's what drives interest rates to stay the same. But where we may hit is maybe some of the luxury properties or the people that are pulling their money out. If anybody's in crypto right now, or if anybody's, not that that's the main form of economics, but people whose stock market portfolio gets hit might get a little bit pinched. And I think that's more of a luxury and secondary home market. I
agree. I think the luxury will be the most disrupted by this, just because of consumer confidence and net worth thrive is more of a factor in the luxury market than other markets.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think, like going back to that conversation with Rick and consulting buyers, I just think there's a lot of buyers out there that would buy houses right now if we put them in front of the right property with the right counseling and advice. And they're going to have a little cash, but good real estate agents know how to win in this market.
Well, in the absence of regular buyers, you're going to have investors, because what more stable product can you buy than real estate if you're trying to get out of the markets?
There you go. So anything else on Ukraine? It's certainly the hottest. conversation.
Increase supply chain issues and prices of lumber. I mean, I know oil and grain are the main ones, but it could affect some lumber prices and building material prices and concrete. Actually, it could affect that. So we could be driving up the prices for builders, which could stagnate that next level of inventory coming forward, right?
Yep. And I think the new construction market's going to stall out a little bit this year. And I think they're wanting it to stall out because they realize that they can just push it out 9 months, 12 months. They can build the same house for like half because of what they're having to pay right now.
Appreciate they can sell it for 5 to 8% more.
Yeah, there you go.
So agreed.
So anyway, I think Ukraine's an ongoing thing that's going on in the world. You know, we live in a global economy, not a national economy, and certainly oil in other parts of the world affects the oil price here, which in turn affects our interest rates, right? Which you can go on down all kinds of different conversations, but at the end of the day, I think demand, if all this happens and it slows down demand, I wouldn't be surprised. But my opinion is that there's this shadow buyer that's been hiding, waiting to buy houses, just scared to jump in the pool. And I think you give them some favorable conditions, they're going to jump right at it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So Gary Keller hadn't posted his slides from the vision speech yet, but I did screenshot this one. So basically, we track home prices annually, and this yellow line is the long-term average of a 4% price appreciation over time. So it goes back to 1990, and you can see the average price was $94,000. If we followed the 4% trend line, it would be $343,000 today. They're projecting $378,000 average sales price. You can see the gap here is about a 10% price appreciation is what they're projecting. But what's interesting is in 04, 5, 6, and 7, we had the subprime lending practices, if you will. The bubble popped. We were underappreciated for houses for a very, very long time, over a decade. But now, as a result of price appreciation over the last 24 months, we are back on the 4% trend line of real estate. And it's like we picked up we picked up everything we lost from the pre-recession or the previous recession, which is a cool thing. Here's the conversation I think is more important. No matter if you had bought in any of these years, at some point in time, if you have the power to hold real estate, you will always win. And it's just because there's this slow thing going on behind you of a 4% annual appreciation trend line, which just says there's never a bad buy. There's only a bad buy if you have to sell short term.
Yep.
And bottom line, that's real estate, right? And the reason why I want to bring this up, Sean, is I actually think there are people that believe real estate prices could go south right now. That $350,000 property could go down to $325,000. And I'm sure there, Mark just texted me the presentation. He's got it. I'm sure there's going to be some, certain cases where that might happen, but for the most part, real estate prices are not going to go into a negative position, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they could flatten, they could normalize. If we stay, as long as we stay close to that trend line, right? Because we're up over it 2 years in a row, and we did have some massive appreciation. 5 years ago, I was saying that there was going to be a chasm in that 4% appreciation, and we might not ever catch back up to it. And we raced back up to it over the last 4 to 5 years. And you can clearly see on that where that bubble was leading into it. But what we don't have is the difference is people being priced underwater is not going to be as relevant right now. Because the one thing Dodd-Frank did is it tightened up some of the lending regulations. And so you don't have as many people getting, fogging a mirror, getting a pulse, and getting a loan for it.
Got it.
Right.
I have a trouble with the people that think the prices are going to go down. What is it based upon? I don't understand the underlying conditions that they premise on how prices could possibly go down unless the math of supply and demand gets totally thrown out the window. And maybe it's maybe it's World War III. I don't know, but the fundamentals are not leading that way.
I think there's a lot of people that invest in the stock market or in crypto and are used to big highs and lows and movement that way. And then they try to translate the investing in that world to the investing in real estate. Yep. And it's two different perspectives.
Yeah. That's exactly who I hear that argument from, is stock market people.
Yeah.
And it is not, it's two different things completely.
And when we're talking, and I think the advice we need to be giving is exactly what you said, Brett. And the way that I heard Gary Keller say it 10 years ago was, you never lose money in real estate unless you have to sell when the market's down. So if you're buying it with money that you got or with safe investments, or you're not extending yourself, you're always going to come out on top of real estate.
Yeah. So one of the things on this call is we're committed to talking about real subjects and not just fluff. So this is a real subject. It's going on right now. Sean, you sent me this. Tell me what we're looking at here.
Well, here's how I would frame this to begin with. I heard Gary Keller say this about a different topic. It's too early to panic about this, but it's too late to ignore it. Right. And so I look at starting, 21 years ago when I got my real estate license, every commission was 3.5 and 3.5, 7%. Not even a question about it. And I watched, about 10 years ago, we changed the paradigm from a 7% commission down to a 6% commission. And I do believe moving forward in the future of our industry, successful agents making the most money are going to do more transactions at a slightly lesser commission. And what we've seen is some of the institutional buyers starting to offer 1% commission to the buyer, or 2% commission, or 1.5% commission. And we're seeing the buyer's agent commissions getting cut very rapidly. And we see companies like, I'm not saying it's not judging whether it's good or bad, but companies like Open Door are trying to train and build the behavior for buyers to not call an agent, but to download an app and come see the house on their own, because they want to sell it without paying a buyer agent fee.
Yeah.
And what we need to be prepared for is having conversations when we're signing buyer brokerage agreements that our fee is 3%, and you're going to have to bring that to the table. Now, the challenge is right now, my concern for that is you're going to get buyers who are too cheap to do it and end up going into things unrepresented, and they're going to end up losing even bigger if they don't have professional representation, right? The challenge is, what we've got to hope that NAR will stand for is, there's got to be a way, if that becomes a paradigm, that could work, but it's got to be able to be financed into the loan or rolled into the mortgage, where it's like for $7 a month, you get representation rather than for $9,000 on the day of closing. And that's the beauty right now of the fact that seller commissions are paid, is it all gets amortized into the loan at a certain level.
This just hit the press right before we started the call. And the president of Zillow is saying humans need humans. And I thought that was interesting, because the pressure on commissions and how the buyer agent will get paid is actually being put on by technology. And the technology is saying, hey, we can do more of the process for you. You just need somebody to get you into the property, or somebody to, they're trying to replace the agency with technology. But Zillow's coming out and saying, wait a minute. Humans need humans in this transaction. And I thought it was really interesting, because the tech-centric market, which I would put Zillow in, I'd put Open Door in, I'd put all those companies in, is realizing tech's not enough. You have to have real estate agency, fiduciary duty, representation, in order for humans to feel comfortable buying and selling real estate.
Well, there's the exact conversation. My value to you as a professional is in my fiduciary responsibility, not my functionary responsibility. You're not paying me to Google what's available for sale, right? You're paying me for the expertise in how to get that property for you. and how to negotiate through the inspections and how to get it to closing and how to make sure, you know, that you're basically buying access to all of my vendors and everything that I offer. If we get into the functionary conversation, well, yeah, our clients have equal access to what's in the MLS than we do, right? 20 years ago, we were the keepers of the information. You wanted to see a house, you had to come to my office because we had a book that said what came out that month. And nobody else had access to it, right? We have graduated to where, as professionals, we need to be the cultivators of the information, right? And we need to be able to provide our value, and that's through fiduciary responsibility, not through functionary responsibility.
Yep.
I don't see how. I was
Go
going
ahead.
to say, I don't see how there's any way that an unrepresented buyer can be competitive in this market in a multiple offer situation. With they can't compete.
Right.
They don't know how to do it. It's too much work.
My script
You
for
know,
a buyer,
It's
My
hard
script-
work.
my script for a buyer is, as a listing agent, I'm dreaming of you to come into this representation. Unrepresented. You know why? Because I'm still getting 6% on it, and I'm not giving you my 3%. And I'm writing this because I represent the sellers and not you. And in 20 years, I can tell you a number of times, I've always encouraged unrepresented buyers, go get representation. Go get representation, because I don't represent you. I represent the seller. And you want me to write that contract? I'll do it 11 times out of 10. And every day, twice on Sunday, because I'm not representing you.
Yeah. You know, I see Deborah Blue on here and she's probably shaking her head, but buyer representation's been like our rally cry for as an industry for years, and agents still kind of ignore that cry and they don't actually sign the paperwork until they're writing an offer. And with the way the industry is moving and commissions, it's just not as normal as it used to be. You really should consider putting buyer representation into your practice, your best practice. And it should be done early on in that conversation we were having earlier, saying, hey, right now, this area you're looking to buy a house is showing up 7% over asking price. You need to be prepared with cash over asking price here, plus whatever your lender tells you. But at the end of the day, you're going to need great representation. And that's what this looks like. And we need to get into an agency relationship.
That's what a buyer consultation is about. It's about educating your buyers about the market, making sure you have a commonality in your mind of how you're going to work together. And by the way, here's my fee, and here's your authorization to represent you.
And they're just not doing it. And we need to be better, guys. I think this is going to be crucial going forward as our industry looks differently with some of these technology plays that are coming and things like that. Because at the end of the day, I think humans need humans, as the Zillow lady said it. And what that means is humans need buyer representation, and they need you to be consulting them into that buyer representation contract.
See, I hear that from Zillow, and I think we just haven't figured out how to put the buy it now button and get people to use it there. But that's my skeptical nature.
There's your crystal ball. So what did we hear today? I hope you heard me challenge you to be human and reach out to people and touch and do care calls and check on people and be sensitive to people around anxiety and just their perspective of what's going on overseas. And then at the same time, I think no news is good news in the real estate market right now. It's kind of steady eddy. We're climbing, but we're not taking off like a rocket ship yet. However, successful agents with great skill sets are winning right now. And that's really what this call is all about.
We're in the golden era of real estate. It's a great day to sell, and it's a great day to buy because affordability is still low, even though prices are high.
There you go.
Take advantage of it.
Have a good one.